If you honestly think we reached peak levels of craziness for this decade back in the year 2020, I will happily take the other side of that bet. I think we're just getting started. But if anything, 2020 was a really good wake-up call to everybody, especially when it comes to your own finances. I always say, it's okay until it isn't okay anymore. And now it's not okay anymore. And if you haven't set yourself up for financial survival for this decade yet, you better get started in 2021. We're only about 20 days into 2021, and it's already crazy. So who knows what the future is going to bring? We have the presidential inauguration in the United States tomorrow. Who knows what that's going to bring us? But like I said, I think we have a very long ways to go in terms of things just getting crazier and possibly getting a lot worse. Now, what did most people do with the stimulus checks they got here in the United States in 2020? Did they go spend them? No. They put them away in some kind of investment. Stocks, metals, crypto, because panic finally sunk in and reality finally sunk in to where most people don't have any type of savings. They have nothing to protect them from something like this. So we need to go over that today. Now, before we start, as always, disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. I do not give financial advice, even though it really, really is going to sound like it. Now, who is this video for? We always do this as well. Mainly, it's going to be for the homies, people who have been with No Nonsense Forex for a while, who understand how we do things. But don't hit the back button just yet, because you might get something out of this as well. We're going to talk about trading for the first part of the video and then investing for the back half of the video. So I am going to do something I almost never do. And I will actually put a timestamp down in the description to where if you want to skip over the trading part and move to the investment part, you can go ahead and do that right now. Now, I will say, if you're unfamiliar with how we trade here, it might be a good idea to learn. This is primarily a Forex trading channel. Forex is a recession-proof market. And if you can put together a really good framework to learn how to trade Forex, then you can make minor modifications and use that framework to trade just about anything, which we're also going to talk about today. So you can just watch the whole thing, jump to the investment part, totally up to you, but let's go ahead and get started. Now, in this video, what we're going to do is kind of go over the year in review for 2020. I always like to do that right about now. And I think there are some good takeaways from doing things like this. And I think you're going to agree. Then we have a word of the year. We used to do it on the podcast back when there was a podcast. And people are already asking what it is. And I have not told them or have given them a wrong answer. But there is an absolute word we need to rally around for the year 2021. And we will be revealing that here. Next, we're going to get you set up right for 2021. Where no matter if you're getting there, if you're already there, or you haven't even started. That's really what this entire year is going to be about. And this is going to officially be video number 1 in that process. And also talk about the future of this channel. What can we expect from No Nonsense Forex here in 2021? I have pretty much laid out all the videos I plan on making for this year. And as always, they can be subject to change. But I want to give you a little bit of a sneak preview of what 2021 is going to look like here on the channel. So let's get into the very first part, the year in review. We need to post our grades for the different markets this year. Now, the way I normally do it, I don't even know how I normally do it on this channel, if I've ever really done it like this before. But this time around, A is a smiley face, B is kind of like a half smile, and then C is more like your straight face, kind of average, because we reward mediocrity here in the United States. And then D would be more of a frowny face. F is a disaster. That's how it's normally going to set up. So what I wanted to do with Forex is give you a bit of a comparison over the last 3 years. I don't know if I gave an official grade or not. I can't even remember. So we're going to go through the last 3 years. And you're going to see kind of the progression and the regression of how the market has gone, in my personal opinion. So let's start with 2018. 2018 wasn't great. It wasn't disastrous. I would give that a solid C. And then 2019, if you traded through it or if you watch this channel, you already know what I'm going to say about 2019. It was the worst I've ever seen. Been doing this for 11 years, never seen anything that bad in terms of lack of volume, fake outs when it came to volume possibly coming back, and then it just never did. Really hard for a trend trader in 2019. Now, 2020, we got our volume back, thankfully, for a while. But I'm going to give it a C overall as well. And let's go take a look at the dollar EVZ, and I will show you where my head was at on this. So if you don't know what the dollar EVZ is, it is literally the video I did right before this video. You can go look that up and see how we use it and why we use it. So I need to go back a little bit so we can get a proper 12 months in here. So I actually need to move this more because it starts at the 20th. Okay, so kind of like that. Now, what happened was what I said was going to happen back in 2019 when everything was super dead. I'm like, guys, it's basic chaos theory. It's going to get better, especially when things are this dead. You can expect some kind of realistic explosion once things start getting chaotic again. And that's exactly what we saw. And then volume came down to levels that were still pretty friendly for Forex traders. Given the last couple years, I cannot really complain about this. This is nice. And then we had the election. And then after the election, the dollar fell, so that gave us some nice opportunities. And then December was pretty poopy, and January has been pretty poopy. I don't know how your trading's going, but mine has not been great the last 6 weeks because the volume just kind of pretends to be there, but it's not really. But word is from my affiliates that a lot of traders are just waiting for the presidency here in the United States to change hands, and then they're going to start trading again. We'll see about that. I hope they're right. But as much as our volume did come back in 2020, I can't sit there and pretend like this didn't happen. This was brutal. I mean, look how low that was until it started ramping up, right as people were starting to become aware of the virus right here. And then December was pretty trash. So you got to factor in all 12 months of a year. That's why I gave it a C. But let's just be glad the volume has come back because it was some really rough sailing there for a while. So maybe these grades don't look very encouraging to you. I think they should for a couple of reasons. One, and I say it all the time, the one thing we don't want in the market, literally the only thing we don't want in the American stock market, for example, is for price to just be slowly ticking up higher. And that is almost all we had. I mean, literally, it's the one thing we don't want, and it's all we had in much of 2018 and 2019. And even in 2020, once things bounced back, we still got some of that. It's not going to happen forever, especially if most people's predictions for 2021 are coming true. The market's going to be all over the place, which means volume should be coming back into our market for an extended period of time, which is great. What's also great is that it really does seem like the worst is over. We kind of hit bottom in terms of volume, and we are getting back to where we need to be. Not totally where we need to be, but I am optimistic for the future of volume coming into the market, which is great for trend traders like us. Also, you have to understand, even though the last 3 years might have looked like this, No Nonsense Forex started in 2018. There have been tens of thousands of traders who've completely turned their trading around in these past 3 years. I have almost 40 people on the testimonials form on my website who have passed a prop firm evaluation of some type in these past 3 years. And that's just the people who fill out the form. I get a lot of people telling me on YouTube and on Twitter that they just pass an evaluation, but they don't go and fill out the form, which is totally fine. So I would say that number is probably at least doubled. So that's a lot of people who were able to do really well despite a market that was not very conducive to trend traders overall. So I would absolutely be excited about the future in terms of Forex trading, And the worse the actual markets get out there, the better it's going to be for us here in Forex land, because fear is going to sink in, people are going to flood into cash, and that is really good for us. Yeah, so I would say don't look at this as a negative at all. I see this as very positive, and I'm very optimistic for what is coming up ahead. So let's move on to the other markets we trade here and see how those played out. Now, as we talked about before, you can take the framework you use for Forex trading, make some very small modifications, and carry those over into these markets, and you should absolutely be doing that. Whether it's on the spot market or through ETFs, whatever it is, find a way. This is going to be the decade to get a lot more aggressive than you've been. And I will say, if you have participated in these markets, chances are you did pretty well. In metals, I'm going to give metals a B, without really having to go look at the charts on this one. In a nutshell, I thought silver and platinum were very good. I thought gold was just kind of average. And palladium, which pretty much saved our hides back in 2019, was actually really bad to trade in 2020. But that's just how it goes. Chaos theory again. Got really good, and then just kind of stagnated throughout much of last year. So that's just how it goes, but that's why we trade them all, and that's why we take a long-term view, because at the end of the day, I think metals had a pretty darn good year. Indices had a better year. Now, we will look at indices in a moment, but I'm going to give that an A-. And it was only good for you if you were actually present and active in the market when the big drop happened and when the big recovery happened. And as technical traders, there's no reason why you should not have been. There were ample opportunities to get into both moves, and we're going to take a look at that in a moment. But let's not forget oil. Oil was even better. Oil was phenomenal. Again, if you were actively in it and not afraid to pull the trigger when it gave you a signal. Now, in a moment, we will go to the charts, and I will show you indices, and I will show you oil, so you can kind of get an idea of what constitutes an A and an A- in my book. They can take all different forms, but I was really happy with both markets this year, and props to anyone who had the stones to jump into the market and trade it, even when things were getting absolutely crazy, because you certainly benefited if you did. Crypto is a bit different because we don't trade crypto here on the channel, because I actually made a video about crypto, and I said, look, all you really need to do is plug in the money management structure we use here to a degree, and you're going to do really well in crypto trading because the swings are so intense. Even with the market share climbing, I think there's going to come a day where we can use the No Nonsense Forex way of trading to trade crypto. Some people already are. They've told me they've had good results with it, but from a recommendation standpoint, I don't think it's time yet. I mean, we still just saw rises and falls in Bitcoin, the most slow and stable of all the cryptocurrencies, minus stable coins. We still saw 25% rises and falls. Like, that does not happen in the world of Forex. Even a flash crash is only like a 7% drop, and then it usually pops right back up. So I don't think it's time to convert this over to crypto trading yet. But there are ways you can do it. If you want to check out the crypto video I made and plug that money management system in, I think you're going to do really well. We've gotten really good feedback on that video so far. But let's go ahead and take a look at indices and oil, and you can see what a really good market looks like. So here we are at oil on the daily chart. Going back to the beginning of January up to about towards the end of November. That's all I could really fit in for right now. But you can see, started off like slowly going down, gave you plenty of chances to go short, and then whammo. What we saw in oil, how some of the futures contracts were going negative, like way negative. Craziest thing I've ever seen in the oil market. And people got to participate in it. And I was happy to see that. Even when bad things happen, you can still profit off of it. It has nothing to do with us. We're not adding to the problem, so you might as well make money off of it, and that is what a lot of people did. And then you had the subsequent recovery, which pretty much went straight back up. Now, you might have had a little bit of an existential crisis here down at the bottom when you first got that long signal, wherever it was. because there was such panic in the market before. But if you just stuck to your guns and traded your system, you got that move back up too. Now, things did stagnate for a while, but as no-nonsense Forex traders with a good volume indicator, it's pretty easy to really scale down your losses. You're still going to take a couple during times like this, but you're not going to take as much as normal people would. And those losses aren't going to be very big compared to what you probably got here and here. So then we moved into periods of a little more volume, and then towards the end, we got a really nice move back up, which was just the icing on the cake. So markets are going to trend and consolidate no matter what the year is, but in terms of a market that I just thought gave you great opportunities to win and very few opportunities to lose if you were patient, I think oil was fantastic for 2020. Let's go to the S&P 500, to where this looked pretty close. I mean, you still had that futility where just nothing was going on. We were inching higher, exactly what we don't want, and then down, all the way down. The worst call I ever made on this channel was the bear market video that I think I made right there. I was like, look, I think we're going down lower. Here's how to play it. And then as soon as that video was released, everything started going back up. But again, you just have to trust your charts. And if you did, there was plenty of opportunity on the upside. Not as smooth as you saw in oil. You definitely saw some more jagged action on the way up, but still lots of opportunity. Another move up, and then some more sideways action, but not terribly sideways. I mean, remember, we don't use a volume indicator to trade indices. So there are opportunities all up and down. And then going into the end of December, just kept inching upward, which is, again, what we don't want as Forex traders. But as indices traders, there was so much opportunity. Only reason I really gave it an A- is because I think that tight consolidation we had in oil, to where we're pretty much out of the market, really did us well, to where I think there's still opportunities to take losses when the market does this, because it's not always super smooth. I remember this right here. See that head and shoulders pattern? Everybody was talking about it, saying it's only a matter of time because before we go down even harder, because look at that head and shoulders pattern. Well, it never happened, and everything kept going up. So close to being an A, but I do know just by being in the market and trading it that there were more opportunities for losses this year than there were in oil. So that's why I gave it an A-. Everybody has their own grades. I'm sure you have yours, but that was mine. So as no-nonsense Forex traders, if you have not already branched out into these other markets and found a way to do so, let this be your wake-up call. The modifications you need to make on your system are fairly slight, and even if you don't have the best year in Forex, you can still have an overall good year because you are active and present in these markets as well. Now, what most rich people will do is they will play the market all the way up, and then when things get scary, they take all their money and put it into cash or gold or whatever neutral type or bonds, whatever neutrality they can find until it starts getting good again. As technical traders, we have the luxury of making money on the way down as well as on the way up. It's a huge luxury and a huge advantage we have. Please start leveraging it at some point, if you haven't already. All right, so fans of No Nonsense Forex and the Forex Q&A podcast, it is time. It is time for the word that we rally around, the battle cry for 2021. People are already wanting to know what it is. They've asked me all throughout the month already, and I have not answered them, or I've given them a fake answer. So let's go see what it is for 2021. Now, in the past, the channel started in 2018, In 2018, we didn't really have a word, and then we started in 2019 with the word relentless. What that pretty much meant is, look, you got a lot of new material out there. This is a way of trading that you've never seen before. Learn it. Watch the videos, read the blog, find some indicators, find places to go find indicators, start backtesting them, and start seeing what really works. Now, by 2020, you should be able to take those pieces and put them together and build at least the first version of what you are going to have for the rest of your trading career. So if you are just starting the channel now, you're going to have to go back. Start with being relentless and then take the next year to build. But for those of you who are caught up, you guys know what to do now. This should not come as any surprise. 2021 is going to be all about execution. We have seen, like I just said in the introduction, and I've said this forever. I called it twice in 2019 on the podcast. Things are okay until they're not. And if you've made it this far and you're not actually hitting the go button and starting to execute on what you have built, I think you're making a huge mistake. So let's review the steps that we need to take here as No Nonsense Forex traders to build our system and put it into play. So first is the backtesting stage. It does take a while. I understand that. But then once you find something good, you got to forward test it to see how it works in real life and see if you can actually perform in real life, even though real money is not on the line yet. Now, this step here I added over time. It is optional, but if you can do it, put some real money out there and start trading with it next. Now, this is going to seem a bit hypocritical because in episode, I think, 33 of the podcast, I said you should not be trading with small accounts. So please understand the context on that. The reason I said that is because for Forex traders all over the world, especially when you first start out, you honestly had this idea in your head that you're going to take the $200 or the $500 that you have to trade with and turn that into something meaningful. Unless you just hit the lottery in Forex terms and then have the presence of mind to pull all of the money out, once you hit a huge move and you're over leveraged when you do it. That's the only way that's ever going to happen. And we certainly don't recommend trading that way here. Plus, you're way too attached to that money when it's that small. And so we recommend taking the route we take instead. Backtesting, forward testing, real money testing if possible, and then trade other people's money. If you want, go pro with a firm, find somebody who will give you their money, maybe go the brick and mortar route and make some good connections and start there. There's a lot of ways you can go with this without having a lot of money. That's the greatest part about it. But these are the steps. Now, one of the biggest problems I've seen no-nonsense Forex traders make over the years is they get too stuck on this, the backtesting part, and they try to over-optimize. Now, we gave some pretty lofty goals for having a backtesting system that you can go forward test with, because your results are probably going to drop a little bit once you start testing it for real. It's just how it's going to happen. And maybe that had something to do with it. But like I said, there is an urgency now that there wasn't in the past. So I am going to propose a change. And traders, it's up to you if you want to follow this or not. But I think, and this was a video, this was a section in the book. We just never spent a ton of time on it compared to other aspects of trading psychology. But if things really start getting bad, you're going to want to make sure you have as much experience under your belt trading this way. Because if you don't, you might have done everything right, and you're still not going to be well equipped to prosper and survive in a really crazy market, which I think is coming. I want you to have as much experience as you can before that time comes. And if you're stuck in the backtesting stage, or you're trying to over-optimize, or you're just too afraid to take what you have and put it out there in the real world, I think that's a tremendous mistake. So what I am proposing here, and if you want to go this route, you can, go through the processes as you normally do here, but instead of something like a 12% ROI or a 15 or a 10, wherever you've set that mark, just have something like a 6% yearly ROI as your benchmark for backtesting. And then start putting that out there. Even if it's real money testing, how much money do you really think you're going to lose on something that's been proven in 3 years to have a 6% return year over year? Chances are very small. So you can forward test it on demo. You can trade real money with it and still be fine, while still building a more optimized system in the background. Remember, it only takes about 10 to 15 minutes a day to trade our way. So you're going to have plenty of time to do both. Now, I don't expect this system here to be the one you ultimately end up using, but it's not about that. It's about getting those reps in. It's about trading this system in real time. So when it is time to take the system you really like and start forward testing with it, you already have some experience under your belt, as opposed to the forward testing part or the real money part being your very first time. I hope this makes sense. Trade with this so you can feel what it's like to trade this way, but keep optimizing and improving in the background. And then once you have that system you really think is going to do well and you want to see how it flies and start forward testing it, you're going to be in a better space because you're going to have that experience. I cannot express enough the importance of experience, but it's just so hard to do until you actually get it. And I think by doing it this way, once you do finally hit the markets, whether it's forward testing, real money, or even going pro, instead of having no experience, you will actually have some. And then by the time you want to go pro, you'll have more than you did before. And that can only benefit you, because this is the type of thing that is going to keep you afloat and hopefully get you prosperous throughout the 2020s. And I want that transition to be as smooth as possible. And the more experience you have under your belt, the smoother it is going to go. So instead of twiddling around with backtesting and over-optimizing all day, just get something close and get it in motion while you're doing the main backtesting portion. So execution is important here. It's also important because, as we just saw on the charts, these big moves happen, and if you are not around for them, and if you're not actively trading when they happen, you're going to miss them. And that's a terrible thing. Now, a lot of people miss them because usually the big moves come right after a period of stagnation, a period of losses. And a lot of people say, well, I'm going to sit out because I don't like the way the market's going right now. And that's exactly how you miss them. And if you miss them, you're going to look back on a tremendous year for oil, for example, and you're going to be like, how did I miss out on all that? I looked back at my system and it told me where to go short. It told me where to go long. I would have gotten both pieces of that huge move, but somehow I didn't. Well, you didn't because you weren't executing the way you should. You need to take every trade your system gives you. Of course, unless news is getting in the way, but those times are very rare. You don't get to sit there and pick and choose when you trade the market. If you're going to trade it, you have to be there all the time. We trade the daily chart here, so this should not be very hard to do. But I can tell you right now, early on, this was my biggest thing. I would get mad that I was taking losses, and I would sit out, and every time I sat out, of course, here comes the big move that I should have been taking part of, which totally screwed up my ROI for the year. And I don't want this to happen to you. And if things really do get crazy in the 2020s, you really can't afford to miss these moves. They will have a really awful effect on your bottom line, and this is something we can't afford to have happen. So in trading, make sure you are active and present all the time once you have a system that you are comfortable with. But executing and being present and active in the markets does not just apply to trading. It applies to investing as well. And on this channel, I gotta flex a little bit here because, look, man, it's tough when you have, especially when you have a big audience too, to put a monetary type prediction out there, knowing that you have all these people watching you and recording you and screenshotting everything you do. You better have some real conviction behind these predictions you put out. And I might have blown the bear market prediction, but thankfully, you don't lose a whole lot of money when you do something like that. If I was wrong about any of these things, I would still be hearing about it today. But I wasn't, because when it was time to make a move, I made moves. You can't sit there and overthink it. You do the research, and if you believe in the thing you are researching, you just have to pull the trigger. You cannot sit on your hands. So it talked about gold and silver all the way back in episode 12 of the podcast. I think gold was right around 1,200 at the time. And we started talking about the mining sector towards the end of 2019. That was the video with the dollar signs on the thumbnail. I think it's called Precious Metals for the Win, if you want to look that up. And, then we talked about crypto on the blog. I tweeted it out. I said I'm officially bullish on Bitcoin right when it was at 8,900. Now, that was much later than a lot of actual crypto people were saying, but as a longtime Forex trader and somebody who's been investing for a few years, I don't look at things the way they do. I look at things through my lens, and even through my lens, I'm like, all right, this is officially legit, and I'm putting my money behind it. So I'm not allowed to give official financial advice on this channel, but just know I have been practicing what I preach, and I've been telling you when I'm interested in entering these markets and my reasons why. And then later on this year, I did the same for uranium, and then that didn't give hardly any time to any people to enter. Like 7 to 10 days later, uranium started taking off, like right after that video. So on that note, something I did not expect was for people outside of North America to participate in North American ETFs is really hard to do, apparently. I thought it was a lot easier. I was wrong. So down below in the comments section, and do not put links because links get deleted, but if anybody knows of some brokers that Europeans or Asians can use to access North American ETFs, in particular the ones in the uranium space, that's the ones that people were really interested in at the time, put that down below in the comments section, and hopefully somebody will see it. Because that video sparked a lot of interest in uranium mining stocks, and unfortunately not everybody who wanted to participate could participate because they just simply didn't have the access, and that sucks. I don't like seeing that. Now let's talk about these top three. Cross off uranium. Uranium is kind of in a class on its own. But the reason why I was putting my money here, and I wasn't afraid to execute, because you guys know how I think. I'm very concerned about a very unstable and probably going to be very bad market coming up fairly soon. So I am protecting myself everywhere I can. Now, the odd thing that happened is, even though the market overall has still been going up, all of these things went up with it. It was a direct correlation instead of the inverse correlation that you would normally expect. Now, why was that? Well, Bitcoin has a host of reasons why that happened, but the main reasons, really, that all three of these things took off when they did, even though they're defensive plays and the market just kept going up over time, is because the smart money sees the writing on the wall too. They see the same things we see, and they're loading up as well for a very uncertain future. You got to keep in mind too, a lot of these huge institutions have grandma's pension on the line. They have very rich people who've entrusted them with their money. They can't just keep putting it into the stock market. And there's a lot of alpha in the stock market still, but they know they have to protect themselves, and they know the time is now. And so that's why those things all went up. And I'm going to say this too. Whether you are invested in these or not, just remember, when things got really bad and the market fell in March, all of these things fell with it as well. Now, why did that happen? Well, if you don't remember, they mentioned it on Financial News, and Financial News was actually right for once. A lot of people over time, because things were just so good for so long, they had to keep up with the Joneses, and they had to compete. So many people and many institutions got leveraged accounts. Leveraged accounts can be very dangerous, because when things are good, they're great. But when things are not, the chances of you getting margin called go way up. And that's what was happening to people. So they had to get rid of things and liquidate a lot of the things they had. And miners and gold and silver were a big part of that puzzle. Crypto, I think people were just taking profit or they were panicking. I don't know. Uranium did fall in that time too. But that's why that happened, because people were being irresponsible and they finally got caught with their pants down. If the market falls like that again, you might see another dip in these assets, but I don't think it's going to be as extreme. So just be ready for that. I would say if you have these assets to hang on to them, that's what I'm doing. When I got these things, they were all for long term. And if the market drops again, I'm just going to hopefully be right and sit tight. That's been my mantra. Now, the question is too, and it's a fair question, but understand I can't really answer this question. Are all of these still buys at the current prices they are now on January 19th, 2020? I cannot answer that. I did, because I executed, because I was bullish on these from the start, I did get in at lower prices. I'm not really buying any more of these myself. I'm kind of all in, and I'm looking other directions, directions which we will talk about this year, by the way. But I will say this. All of the people who got me into these assets, who are pretty much responsible for convincing me that these were good moves, they are all still very bullish at these current prices. And that's all I can say. Their words, not mine. But unlike the last 10, 15, 20 years, you absolutely need defensive plays in your portfolio because this decade is not going to be like the last. I said it before, we're going to pay for the excesses of decades before us. And markets can certainly crash. I think they are due to at any time. And we all got to see what that looks like in 2020. And I fear that it's going to happen again, only this time it's not going to recover the same way. So you need to play defense, and defense goes far beyond just squirreling away money in the bank. That, in a lot of cases, is one of the worst things you can do. And that's something we're going to tackle this year as well. Fear not. We're not going to touch it too much here because it can be a long subject. But stay tuned for that video. It will be coming relatively shortly. COVID can keep going. I think this whole pie-in-the-sky idea that people are going to get vaccines and then we're all going to be better by summer is not going to be the way it really goes down. We have other strains out there now. The market is trying to price this in. I think it's a bad move. Not a strong prediction, but I think a pretty logical prediction. We can all agree. So what's that going to look like on the economy as well? Inflation is very real. We are seeing the precursors of that now. Again, we're going to tackle this in probably the very next video. I think I need to get ahead of this now because this is already happening. You are seeing this at the store. You are seeing this on the things you normally buy every day. And it's this. I do think this is only the beginning. Now, are we going to get a break from it before it gets really, really, really bad? Or is it just going to keep getting worse? That's the big question. That's the biggest debate going on right now in all of macroeconomics. So this is important. This is not something that many Western countries have really had to deal with in a very long time. But I think it is heading our way very shortly. And you need to protect yourself against that as well. Global unrest is going to continue. As things get bad, people are going to push back. That's just natural human nature, so be ready for that. And then, I don't like making this prediction at all, but I think war is going to pick up again. I'm not going to go too into this, but basically, if you guys have been keeping up on this, the United States has protected a lot of countries ever since World War II in exchange for their alliance against the Soviets, if that were to ever go down. This protectionism kind of changed after the Cold War was over and slowly started to fade away, and now it has officially faded away. Before that, a lot of times, if you were a bigger, more powerful country and your neighbor had something you wanted, you just pretty much took it. That's actually how it was. So that's not the case anymore. We are really barely allied with anybody. We don't need anybody else's oil. There is no reason for us to protect anybody anymore, and I think scores are going to be settled down the line as well. Not good stuff. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully people can start picking teams and those teams will be equal and wars will not happen, but I would not be too optimistic about that. And unlike before, these wars might be happening to fairly wealthy and developed countries, which is another something we haven't seen much of. Now, please don't let this piece right here be the one thing in your mind that defines this video. This is nothing but a prediction. But if something like this were to happen in your country or a neighboring country, it's typically not good for finances either, and the people who are prepared are the ones who survive and prosper going forward. But given all these other things, I just don't see how something like this can be avoided, especially in the new time we're in right now. So enough jury stuff. Let's talk about all of the things that I am personally doing, and I know some of the things that I do might seem a bit eccentric, but so far I've made some pretty smart moves, I like to think, and going forward, I am going to do whatever I can to protect myself from any external factors. The last thing I ever want is some external factors from some governments or some countries that I have no control over taking me down. After all the hard work I've done to get to this point, that's the last thing I want. So going forward, I'm looking for more buy and hold opportunities. There's not a lot out there that's really cheap, but I think there are a couple good opportunities, and I will be sharing them with you as we go forward, at least a couple of them. I have taken on a ton of, I already do this already. I have so much on my plate all the time. It's just the way I operate. But I have taken on 2 really big projects and then a smaller one later in the year on top of what I already do. Because look, man, now's the time. I have the next 40, 50 years of my life to relax and do nothing. And that's a really, really long time. I'm in the prime of my life right now. Now is the time to make things happen and secure my future and my family's future. And that's what I'm going to try to do. And look, I enjoy the process. That's just the type of person I normally am. I saw a really good video from George Gammon, who I've recommended in the past. And it came on a couple days ago. I will actually link it down below, and I'll timestamp the part I'm talking about. But he talked about people who they are at their happiest when they have a lot going on. And when they don't have anything going on, that's when their stress levels actually start to rise. And he mentioned people like Elon Musk, Carl Icahn, Donald Trump. And I don't identify with those people, especially because I don't really want power, because I think people in general are very irrational, and I don't like dealing with a lot of them. So I'm not looking for that end of it, but there's aspects of those people that I can really identify with, and I think a lot of you might identify with them too. The whole video is really good, but down in the description I will link it and then tell you the time period that on the video that I'm referring to. Now, in the process, I'm also relocating. After 15 wonderful years in Las Vegas, I am leaving town. I'm probably leaving the country and just going to go hang out in some place that has less to do. And I am okay with that. And I have a little bit of time. I got about 6 weeks to figure this out. It will not be a place where they're making a big deal of COVID. So any place that has one of the 8 major currencies, I'm not going there. But I'm going to go and not really relax. I'm going to grind. But I'm going to go somewhere where there's less distractions. I haven't done hardly any social media these past 7 days. I haven't tweeted anything. I haven't been on Discord. I haven't added anything to the blog. And I got so much done, even more than usual. And so that's going to be kind of how I'm going to operate this year too. I'm telling you, this all seems like I'm just going full maniac mode, but I don't know any other way to go. Look, the people who are out there watching Netflix and gaming for 5 hours a night, those are the people that when really bad things happen in the world, they're the ones who get left behind, and they're scrambling and they don't know what to do. After all I've tried to do my entire life, I can't imagine falling into that bucket. I want to be somebody who is immune from this. I want to be somebody who might actually benefit from a falling market, because those people are out there. It is possible, and I want that same for you. But I'm telling you, it's not going to come out. It's not going to come without a little bit of sacrifice. But the time to grind, the time to add on those multiple streams of income, the time to find new avenues for your trading and your investing, it's right now. All right, I'll relax when it's time to relax. I'll relax when I'm old. But right now, I'm doing everything I can to set myself up for success later and to make sure these external factors that I have no control over don't end up taking me down. All right. I don't have a wife and kids. If I did, I would probably be doing even more than this because now I have people depending on me. And look, if I'm wrong, and I could certainly be wrong, everything could be cake and ice cream this entire decade. Who knows? There's always the possibility, right? But if that's the case and I'm wrong, there is no downside to doing all this. I'm still setting myself up really well for the future. It's so much upside and so little downside. So make a decision now. Decide what side of the fence you want to be on, and then execute. Time is now. The more time you sit on your hands, the better chance all this is going to creep up on you, and it's going to be too late. And the only thing worse than getting caught off guard by this is actually knowing you could have done something about it, but you just didn't execute. That's the worst. So we did say we're going to talk about the future of the channel. Let's go ahead and set up 2021 for that right now. So fair warning, I did this with the podcast as well. But understand that there is a decent chance that towards the end of 2021 and maybe extended to the beginning of 2022, the videos on this channel are going to end. Now, I reserve the right to put out another video after the fact if it's appropriate, but you got to understand too, I only know so many things, at least things that I feel confident enough to put out to the entire world like I'm some kind of expert. The last thing you want me doing is watering down the channel and talking about things that I don't really know a whole lot about. And that is 99.9% of things in the world. You know, I've kind of exhausted what I know at this point, at least after this year is over. So fair warning on that. I've only been putting out videos about once a month anyway. You know, it's kind of a nice little fade away process. You won't miss me too much. But if you do miss this radio / hee-haw voice, I have been talking about a spin-off channel for a while, which I've had in the works ever since early last year. I have the luxury of time on this. I don't need to put it out anytime soon, but I do want to have it kind of in the works by the end of 2021, and I will let all of you know via YouTube and Twitter and the website what that is and what it's about. So I will continue on. It just won't be anything to do with trading. It will be finance, but nothing to do with trading. Those are the only hints I'll give you on that. But for this year, I have a couple investment opportunities. We'll see what the prices of those things are by the time it's time to make those videos. We have another money management video, at least one money management video, believe it or not. A couple psychology videos, maybe 3, depending. Another crypto video. And then, believe it or not, we still have a couple things to talk about in the Forex world. I've said it before. I've given you everything you will ever need to become a really good Forex trader. There's just a couple add-on type things that I think people will be really interested in. And so expect some Forex material as well in 2021. But overall, what we're trying to do for this year, what I'm trying to do more than anything, is just get you set up, start to finish, from trading all the way to investing, all the way to multiple streams of income, all the way to just overall lifestyle when it comes to setting you up for financial survival and prosperity. That's going to be my number one goal for the year. Now, certainly don't wait for these videos to come out before you execute on the things you need to execute on. Just understand that I'm going to try to add some things along the way. And then when it's all said and done, all of the information in my tiny little brain will be out there for people to utilize and enjoy, hopefully for the next 10 years, depending on the future of YouTube. But that's what 2021 is looking like. Now, in conclusion, continue to grow as a Forex trader. So many of you, even if you're one of my earliest subscribers, you still don't have a ton of experience, and you need more. And that's really important. And you need to keep improving on your systems. I mean, now is the time to do all of these things. But use all the things you learned on this channel in other markets as well. I keep saying it, and I don't think enough people are doing it. And I think that's a big mistake. If you haven't done it before, let this be the year. But all of the chances you need to take that you were afraid to take in the past because you worry you're going to run out of money if you do these things, one, that's not really true. In a lot of these, like in the gold market or the stock market, if you need the money, you can always take it out. I think people forget that. They feel like if it's not in their own bank account, it's not safe and they can't access it. It's not right. Take chances. Do the research, do the things you have to do, and get in now before it's too late. And I will do my best along the way this year to assist you in that process. So you're going to want to be around for these videos. So make sure if you haven't already, you subscribe and you hit the bell. This year, more than ever, I think it's going to be bonkers. And you're going to want as many people by your side to kind of help guide you through. So certainly look for more people than just me. But I will do my best to have at least one video out per month that will hopefully aid you along the way. But much of it's going to come from you. The majority of it, 99.5% of it, is going to come from you. You must be relentless along the way. You must build something that you are going to have for the rest of your life. And then once you have it, you must hit the go button and you must execute. No matter what this decade looks like, the people who take active control of their life and their finances are probably going to be okay, no matter what. Decide if that's going to be you or not. Then go get it.